They say the wedding day is one of the happiest days of a person's life, a celebration of love, trust, and commitment. But for one bride and groom, their perfect day turned into an unthinkable nightmare. Beneath the smiles, the vows, and the celebration, a dark secret was waiting to explode. A secret so devastating, it would tear apart not just the newlyweds, but everyone in the room. By the end of the night, a shocking revelation would come to light. An affair between the bride and someone unexpected, someone trusted. And before the sun could rise on their new life together, one person would be dead, leaving a community forever haunted by the events of that night. How could something so beautiful become so tragic? What really happened during those fateful hours? And how did one betrayal lead to murder? We'll uncover the chilling details behind a wedding night that ended in bloodshed. This is the story of love, lies, and the ultimate betrayal. A tale that proves even the happiest moments can hide the darkest secrets. It was a warm summer evening in late June, in the heart of a countryside. The venue, a sprawling vineyard estate, draped in twinkling lights and adorned with white roses, was the perfect backdrop for what everyone believed would be a fairy tale wedding. The bride, Emma, was radiant in a lace gown, her golden hair shimmering in the sunset. The groom, Daniel, a respected entrepreneur in the area, stood tall and proud, unable to hide the joy on his face as his bride walked down the aisle. Friends and family had gathered from far and wide to celebrate the union of these two seemingly perfect souls. Emma and Daniel were the kind of couple others envied, charming, successful, and deeply in love, or so it seemed. To their guests, this was more than a wedding. It was the culmination of years of love and dedication, a celebration of a bond that appeared unshakable. But behind the scenes, not everything was as perfect as it seemed. As the couple exchanged their vows, the photographer, a man named Liam, moved discreetly around the ceremony, capturing every stolen glance, every tear, and every smile. Liam was no stranger to the bride. He had been hired after Emma insisted that no one else could capture the essence of their love story the way he could. Those close to the couple had noticed something unusual in the weeks leading up to the wedding. Emma had seemed distracted, often disappearing for hours at a time with vague explanations. Daniel, ever trusting, brushed it off as wedding jitters. Meanwhile, whispers began circulating among the bridal party. Hushed conversations about lingering glances and secretive exchanges between the bride and the photographer. At the reception, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the guests raised their glasses to toast the happy couple, some couldn't help but notice small cracks in the facade. Daniel's smile seemed strained at times, his gaze lingering on Emma as if searching for something he couldn't quite put into words. And Emma? She laughed a little too loudly, her movements quick and restless, as though trying to mask a deeper unease. But even then, no one could have predicted the chaos that was about to unfold. The seemingly perfect wedding day was heading toward an explosive climax, one that would leave everyone questioning the truth behind Emma and Daniel's love story, and the motives of the people closest to them. What exactly happened between Emma and Liam, the photographer who had been so carefully chosen to document this special day? And what secrets were hiding in plain sight? As the night wore on, tensions would boil over, leading to an unthinkable act of violence. The answers lie in the events that followed, and the truths they would later reveal. Emma and Liam's paths first crossed nearly a year before the wedding. Liam was a highly sought-after photographer known for his ability to capture not just moments, but emotions, those fleeting, unspoken connections that often go unnoticed. Emma had seen his work in a friend's wedding album and insisted that he was the only one who could truly immortalize her special day. At first, it seemed like a purely professional relationship. But as the months went by and the wedding preparations intensified, their interactions took on a different tone. Liam wasn't just a photographer. He was charming, attentive, and, most importantly, a good listener. While Daniel was often busy with work, Emma found herself spending long hours discussing wedding plans with Liam. These meetings, which began in coffee shops and studio sessions, soon extended to late-night phone calls and casual texts. What started as professional exchanges about lighting and venue angles slowly evolved into more personal conversations, ones that revealed vulnerabilities, dreams, and frustrations. According to discreetly obtained text messages, later recovered during the investigation, Emma had confided in Liam about her doubts and fears regarding her upcoming marriage. In one message, she wrote, "Sometimes, I feel like Daniel sees the wedding more as a box to check off than a celebration of us. With you, I feel seen." Liam's replies were equally intimate, often encouraging Emma to prioritize her happiness and subtly validating her growing doubts about Daniel. Friends of the bride would later admit that they had noticed a change in Emma. She seemed distant, often distracted during conversations about the wedding. One bridesmaid recalled catching Emma scrolling through her phone late at night, her face illuminated by a faint smile that wasn't directed at Daniel. Another friend mentioned seeing Emma and Liam together at a cafe far from the wedding venue, their heads close as they laughed over something private. In the weeks leading up to the ceremony, Liam's presence became more noticeable, even to Daniel. The groom, ever trusting, dismissed it as a product of Liam's role in the wedding. After all, wasn't it natural for the photographer to be around, scouting locations and discussing logistics with Emma? But subtle clues hinted at something more. Liam's eyes lingered a little too long on the bride, his hand brushing hers under the guise of adjusting a pose for photos. To the untrained eye, these might have seemed innocent, but to those paying closer attention, they told a different story. And then there were the gifts. A delicate bracelet Emma wore during her bridal shower, a gift she claimed was from a close friend. The private photos Liam shared with Emma from their test shoots, ones she never showed to Daniel. These small, almost imperceptible moments began to weave a web of suspicion, though no one could quite put their finger on the truth. Not yet. By the time the wedding day arrived, the tension was palpable. Guests noticed Liam's frequent presence by Emma's side, his camera always at the ready, his gaze almost protective. During the reception, one guest overheard a heated exchange between Emma and Liam in a secluded corner of the garden. The words were muffled, but the tone was unmistakably emotional. Another guest later recalled seeing Daniel watching from a distance, his expression unreadable. Did he know? Or was he still blissfully unaware of the betrayal unfolding around him? The answers wouldn't come until later that night. But by then, it would be too late. The affair, once a hidden undercurrent, had become the spark that would ignite an irreversible tragedy. And while Emma and Liam may have believed they were the only ones in on their secret, the truth has a way of coming to light in the most unexpected and devastating ways. What were Emma and Liam really planning? Was their connection born out of genuine affection, or something more calculated? The events that followed would reveal their true motives in the most shocking way imaginable. The wedding reception was a dazzling affair. Beneath the canopy of string lights, guests danced to live music, toasted the couple, and reveled in the romance of the evening. Emma and Daniel moved through the crowd, thanking friends and family, their faces alight with what seemed like genuine joy. But for those paying close attention, something felt off. The first sign of trouble came just after the first dance. Daniel, ever the gracious host, was busy chatting with his groomsmen when Emma and Liam were spotted slipping out of the reception tent. A catering staff member, gathering trays near the garden, later described seeing them together under the pergola, locked in an intense conversation. Emma appeared agitated, gesturing with her hands as Liam leaned in close, his voice low but insistent. The staff member, sensing the intimacy of the moment, quickly turned away, but not before noticing Liam briefly placing his hand on Emma's arm, a gesture too familiar for mere colleagues. As the night wore on, more guests began to take notice. A bridesmaid whispered to another about how Emma seemed to be avoiding Daniel, her laughter forced whenever she was near him. Meanwhile, Liam hovered on the fringes of the party, his camera slung casually over his shoulder, watching Emma with a focus that raised eyebrows. Daniel, ever oblivious, or perhaps willfully blind, continued to mingle, unaware of the storm brewing in his midst. The turning point came during the bouquet toss. Emma, standing at the center of the dance floor, tossed the bouquet high into the air. It landed in the hands of one of her bridesmaids, prompting cheers and applause. But as Emma turned to rejoin Daniel, her gaze fell not on her husband, but on Liam, who stood just beyond the crowd. For a brief moment, their eyes locked. A moment so fleeting, so subtle, that most of the guests missed it. But Daniel didn't. It was as though something in him shifted. Perhaps he'd been ignoring the signs for too long, brushing off his own suspicions as paranoia. But in that moment, he couldn't deny what he saw. Emma's expression, soft, almost tender, wasn't meant for him. It was meant for someone else. What happened next remains a matter of speculation. Some say Daniel confronted Emma immediately, pulling her aside into the bridal suite. Others claim he waited, biding his time until the party began to wind down. Either way, the confrontation was inevitable. As the last of the guests filtered out, Daniel finally asked the question that had been gnawing at him all night. "Is there something you're not telling me?" Emma's response was hesitant at first, her voice trembling as she denied any wrongdoing. But Daniel pressed on, his anger rising with each passing second. The once jubilant groom was now a man betrayed, his voice echoing through the empty hall as he demanded the truth. It wasn't until Liam entered the room, perhaps to retrieve his equipment, or perhaps to check on Emma, that the dam finally broke. Emma, cornered and overwhelmed, blurted out the words that would change everything. "It's not what you think." What followed was chaos. Witnesses outside the room described hearing raised voices, accusations flying back and forth. Some say Daniel lunged at Liam, only to be pulled back by a groomsman who had come to investigate the commotion. Others claim Emma tried to mediate, pleading for calm, her own voice breaking as the weight of her actions came crashing down around her. But this scandal was only the beginning. As the night wore on, tensions would escalate further, spiraling into an act of violence that no one could have anticipated. By morning, the fairy tale would be shattered, leaving one person dead and a trail of questions that would haunt everyone involved. The hours that followed Emma's confession were a blur of raw emotion and chaos. Guests had mostly gone home, the laughter and music of the reception replaced by a tense, suffocating silence. Inside the bridal suite, Daniel, Emma, and Liam remained locked in a fiery confrontation, their voices carrying through the thin walls of the venue. Witnesses later described hearing muffled shouting, followed by what sounded like furniture being overturned. The once celebratory atmosphere of the evening had turned into a pressure cooker of betrayal, anger, and heartbreak. According to testimonies, Daniel stormed out of the bridal suite just after midnight. He was seen pacing in the courtyard, his face flushed with fury, muttering to himself as he clutched a glass of whiskey. Emma remained inside, visibly shaken and tearful, while Liam disappeared into the shadows of the venue, his camera bag slung over his shoulder. What no one realized at the time was that this wasn't the end of the argument. It was merely the calm before the storm. Around 12:30 a.m., a loud crash was heard near the back of the venue, followed by a scream that sent a jolt through the few remaining staff members cleaning up. A waiter, one of the last to leave, described running toward the sound and finding Liam on the ground, blood pooling beneath him, his camera shattered beside him. Emma was standing just a few feet away, her dress stained and her face pale as she screamed for help. Daniel was nowhere to be seen. The initial scene was one of pure chaos. Liam was unresponsive, his injuries severe, later confirmed to be blunt force trauma to the head, consistent with being struck by a heavy object. Nearby, a broken champagne bottle lay on the ground, its jagged edges smeared with blood. Police were called immediately, arriving within minutes to secure the scene. Emma was hysterical, claiming she didn't know what had happened, while Daniel was found near the vineyard's entrance, his hands shaking and his face void of emotion. He offered no resistance as officers approached him, merely muttering, "I didn't mean for it to end like this." The investigation quickly turned to the physical evidence. Forensics confirmed that the champagne bottle was the murder weapon, and Daniel's fingerprints were found on its surface. Witness testimonies painted a picture of a man pushed to his breaking point, his emotions boiling over after learning of Emma's betrayal. But there were details that didn't quite add up. For instance, while Daniel admitted to confronting Liam, he claimed he had only shoved him in a moment of rage, insisting that he had no intention of causing serious harm. Then there was Emma. Her proximity to the crime scene and her erratic behavior raised questions. Could she have been involved in a way no one initially suspected? One staff member recalled seeing Emma holding the champagne bottle earlier in the evening, using it to fill glasses during a private toast with Liam. And then there was the shattered camera. Why was it broken? Investigators wondered if it held images or videos that someone didn't want to be found. The memory card was missing, leaving only speculation about what it might have contained. As detectives pieced together the events of the night, they uncovered more than just the physical evidence. Conversations with guests revealed that tensions between Emma, Liam, and Daniel had been simmering for weeks, with Liam reportedly urging Emma to leave Daniel altogether. Text messages between Emma and Liam hinted at plans for a future together, plans that could have led to an even darker motive for the crime. And then, there was Daniel's cryptic statement to police. "I didn't mean for it to end like this." What exactly did he mean? And was he taking responsibility for something he didn't actually do? But just as investigators thought they had pieced together the story, they uncovered something that changed everything. A detail so shocking, it would shift the focus of the investigation entirely. This wasn't just a crime of passion. It was something far more calculated, something darker than anyone could have imagined. What was the real motive behind the murder? Who was truly responsible? And what secrets did that missing memory card hold? The answers would leave everyone questioning everything they thought they knew about Emma, Daniel, and Liam. The murder of Liam sent shockwaves through the small community and left police with a tangled web of emotions, motives, and unanswered questions. The idyllic wedding had turned into a crime scene, and what initially appeared to be a straightforward case of passion-fueled violence quickly unraveled into something far more complex. As investigators delved deeper, Every layer of the case revealed new twists and dark secrets that no one could have predicted. Detectives began by securing the crime scene. The blood-spattered champagne bottle, Liam's shattered camera, and scattered personal belongings were all collected for forensic analysis. Fingerprints on the bottle confirmed what witnesses already suspected. Daniel had wielded the weapon, but inconsistencies in the accounts of that night suggested there was more to the story. Daniel admitted to striking Liam in a fit of rage, but insisted it wasn't enough to kill him. "He was still conscious when I walked away," Daniel claimed during his initial interrogation. "I didn't want this to happen." Then there was Emma. Her testimony painted a chaotic picture. She claimed she had tried to defuse the situation between Liam and Daniel, but had been pushed aside when emotions boiled over. However, her erratic behavior and cryptic statements raised suspicions. When asked about the missing memory card from Liam's camera, Emma avoided direct answers, only stating that she had no idea where it could be. Yet witnesses remembered seeing Emma near Liam's equipment shortly after the altercation, prompting detectives to wonder, was she hiding something? And if so, why? Forensic experts analyzed Liam's injuries and concluded that while the blow from the champagne bottle was severe, it might not have been the sole cause of death. Bruising on his neck suggested possible strangulation, raising the unsettling possibility that someone else had intervened after Daniel left the scene. This discovery turned the investigation on its head, introducing a chilling question. Could there have been a second assailant? Interviews with wedding guests and staff added to the confusion. A groomsman claimed he saw Daniel pacing near the crime scene moments before Liam's body was discovered. Meanwhile, a waiter reported seeing Emma and Liam in a heated argument earlier in the evening, with Emma reportedly saying, "You're going to ruin everything." Adding to the mystery, security footage from the venue's cameras revealed an unidentified figure near the back entrance shortly after the time of the murder. The figure's face was obscured, and their presence raised more questions than answers. As detectives dug deeper, they uncovered a trail of secrets that suggested Liam's death might not have been the result of a spontaneous act of passion, but rather the culmination of a calculated plan. Text messages between Emma and Liam revealed their intent to confront Daniel that night, not just about the affair, but about Emma's desire to leave the marriage entirely. One message from Liam read, "Tonight, we end this. No more hiding." But who had the most to gain from silencing Liam forever? Daniel, the betrayed groom? Emma, the desperate bride? Or was there someone else in the shadows, someone who had yet to come to light? The turning point in the investigation came weeks later, when the missing memory card from Liam's camera was discovered. A groundskeeper found it wedged beneath a pile of fallen leaves near the vineyard's back gate. The footage it contained was chilling. Among the images and videos from the wedding day was a brief, grainy clip recorded shortly before Liam's death. It showed a confrontation between Liam and Daniel, but in the background, another figure could be seen approaching, a figure that police identified as Emma. The evidence painted a damning picture. Prosecutors argued that Daniel had lashed out in a fit of rage, striking Liam with the champagne bottle, but it was Emma who delivered the fatal blow. Witness testimonies, forensic evidence, and the recovered footage suggested that Emma, desperate to cover her tracks and protect herself, had strangled Liam after Daniel left the scene. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Emma eventually confessed, claiming it was an accident. She insisted she had only meant to stop him from ruining everything. In the end, both Emma and Daniel faced justice. Daniel was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 5 years in prison, while Emma was found guilty of second-degree murder and received a 25-year sentence. The courtroom was packed as the verdict was read, with friends and family struggling to reconcile the Emma they knew with the one who had committed such a heinous act. The case of Emma, Daniel, and Liam is a haunting reminder of how love, betrayal, and desperation can intertwine to devastating effect. A wedding that was meant to celebrate unity instead became a symbol of deceit and tragedy. And while the court brought a sense of closure, the scars left by that night will remain forever. What do you think drove Emma to act so drastically? Was it fear, love, or something darker? And could this tragedy have been avoided if the truth had come to light earlier? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.